here now with Frank Monastero. He's the president of the Geothermal Resources Council, and the GRC puts together the conference portion of the event. Frank, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
We spoke last year, and the industry was going through some hardships given what's happened in the financial markets and the dearth of project finance, and still kind of a difficult period for geothermal companies. But all the same, we hear that there are a lot of projects moving forward. How would you characterize development in the U.S. today, given what's happened in the last couple of years?
Well, development in the U.S. is robust, and it has to do with several key things. First of all, you're absolutely right. The market was dismal last year, and the financial situation was desperate in many ways. The influx of the ARRA money by the U.S. Department of Energy was substantial. $40 million or $400 million influx of loan guarantees, direct investment, drilling offsets, all of the kinds of things that assist in shoring up a project in the early stages were made available. So it buoyed the industry significantly. As far as from the resource end of things, the renewable portfolio standards have been strengthened in all states that have them. Not all states, but the main states where geothermal is a player. For instance, in California and Nevada, they continue to escalate in terms of the percentage of the power requirement that has to come from renewables, and geothermal benefits obviously from that. So the combination of those two things and I would say the heightening of social awareness regarding the carbon budget, which is becoming a more and more contentious in a lot of ways issue, are all pushing the geothermal industry forward significantly.
And a lot of the activity that we saw this year will really materialize in 2011, 2012, as some of these projects that are getting ARRA funding will work their way through the later development phases in 2012 or so.
Exactly.
So while we saw kind of a dip this year, 2011, 2012 may see a significant rise, do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, there are some, I've heard varying numbers, but more than 1,000 projects that have in various stages of progress. Of those, a small percentage will get through to completion, but the ones that do, amazingly, they will. I mean, it's if you get to the point where you have a bankable report, the record of this industry is amazing insofar as all of those projects are actively producing geothermal energy and are profitable. So if you have the courage and the know-how and the wherewithal to get through the early stages, then the getting online. Once you get online, it's a really nice prospect. So I suspect that you will see a big step function jump at the end of 2012 into 2013 and possibly even over into 2014, and a lot of it will be a spillover from ARRA. Yeah.
But the industry is celebrating big birthday this year, 50 years since the first large-scale geothermal power plants were developed at the geysers here in California.
Amazing.
So a big date to mark this year as the industry turns 50.
Absolutely. Well, the industry isn't, and the resource isn't without its skeptics. There are those who say, "Oh my goodness, it really shouldn't be characterized as a renewable because it depletes." But the geysers is an excellent example of how the resource is robust and can withstand some tough times in terms of how the field was managed. It's managed wonderfully now, but
how do you mean some tough times in terms of management?
Well, I think that the geothermal industry went through an interesting learning period. There was a big push in the late 70s as a result of the oil shock, of course. And there were a lot of power plants that came on in the 70s and into the 80s. But people didn't really understand how to manage the resource. It's not as though you drill it and you produce it and all of a sudden it just produces forever and it's all good. You actually have to manage the resource. And manage it in the sense of production and injection. Where do you produce? Where do you inject? Volumes and so forth. And that's a learning curve. And there wasn't much experience. The only places in the world that really had any substantial geothermal were the geysers, which started 50 years ago in the early 1960s, and in Italy, which is the oldest geothermal field, which is over 100 years old in Lardarello. So they went through a period of time where they had to learn about managing resource, and they do a much better job, the industry, do a much better job of that today. So the longevity of these resources is much more likely.
So can we call the industry mature today?
I think it's maturing nicely. We still have a bit to go, especially as regards application of some new technologies that are emerging, especially in the drilling field. We do understand more about fluid flow in fractured rocks, which is what geothermal is all about. And I don't think an industry really ever matures. I mean, the oil and gas industry is still maturing technically, and gosh, they've been around for over 150 years.
But we've yet to reach our peak in geothermal.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And we have a great impetus. I think there's been a change in the culture of the world, not only in the United States, regarding green energy sources, and certainly a broader acceptance of geothermal as one of the key resources in that green portfolio.
Well, Frank Monastero of the Geothermal Resources Council, thanks very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Stephen.